And I believe she has a message for us about hope. The purpose of this message is to show how our spirituality as a people is a functional process. The reading begins with the text that revealed the challenging time of her life. Here at Unity, we don't believe only in the 66 books of the Bible. Y'all just read. We believe revelation knowledge continues, and it didn't stop at revelation. And if oppression didn't stop, revelation knowledge didn't stop. I wish I had some church folk. So our text tonight comes from the 67th book of Maya Angelou. So I provided you with a copy so that you could just add it to Revelations and then turn it over to the 67 when you find yourself in challenging times. And that text reads that the free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bar of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with fearful trill of the things unknown but longed for still. And his tune is heard on a distant hill, but the cage bird sings of what? Yeah. I wish y'all was praying with me. The free bird thinks of another breeze and the trade wind soft through the silent trees and the fat worm waiting. On a dawn bright lawn, he names the sky his own. The free bird thinks of another breeze and the trade wind soft through the singing trees. The fat worm is waiting on a dawn bright lawn and names the sky his own. I want to talk to you tonight about a discovery I discovered in my journeys. I know why the cage bird sings. I know why the cage bird sings. It's the 1969 autobiography about the early years of an African-American writer and poet, Maya Angelou. Verse in a 7-volume series, it is a coming-of-age story that illustrates how strength of character and love of literature can help overcome racism and trauma. The book begins when the 3-year-old Maya and her older brother are sent to Stamps, Arkansas, to live with their grandmother, and ends when Maya becomes a mother at age 16. In the course of The Caged Bird, Maya transformed from victim of racism with an inferiority complex and into a self-possessed, dignified young woman capable of responding to prejudice and It should be clear, however, that this portrayal of rape is hardly titillating or pornography. It raises issues of trust, truth, and lie, love, the naturalness of child's craving for human contact, language, and understanding, and the confusion engendered by the power of disparities that necessarily exist between children and adults. Angelou's description of being raped as an 8-year-old child overwhelms the autobiography, although it is presented briefly in the text. Scholar Mary Vermillion compares Angelou's treatment of rape to that of Harriet Jacobs in her autobiography, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl. Jacobs and Angelou both use rape as a metaphor for suffering of African Americans. Jacob uses the metaphor to critique slave-holding culture, while Angelou uses it to first internalize, then challenge 20th century racism and racist concepts of black female bodies, which have historically been considered physically unattractive by some. Rape, according to Vermillion, represents the black girl's difficulty in controlling and understanding and respecting both her body and her words. Arsenberg notes that Maya's rape is connected to the theme of death in Cageburg. As Mr. Freeman threatens to kill Maya's brother, Bailey, if she tells anybody about the rape. After Maya lies during Freeman's trial, stating that the rape was the first time he had touched her inappropriately. Freedom is murdered, presumably by one of Maya's uncles. And Maya sees her words as a bringer of death. As a result, she resolves never to speak to anyone other than Bailey. Angelou connects the violation of her body and devaluation of her words through the depiction of her self-imposed 5-year-long silence. For 5 years, she never said a word. As Angelou later stated, I thought if I spoke, my mouth would just issue out something that would kill people randomly, or so it was better not to talk. Maya's rape demonstrates how a black woman, she is violated as she moves from childhood to adolescence. African American literature scholar notes that this is a burden that is created and demonstrated in the manner which black females are violated in their tender years. The unnecessary insult of Southern girlhood in her movements to adolescence. Vermillion goes further, maintaining that a black woman who writes about her rape risks reinforcing the negative stereotypes about her race and her gender. When asked decades later how she was able to survive such trauma, Angelou explained it by stating, I can't remember a time when I wasn't loved by somebody. When asked by the same interviewer why she wrote about the experience, she indicated that she wanted to demonstrate the complexities of rape. She also wanted to prevent it from happening to someone else, so that anyone who had been raped might gain understanding and not blame themselves for it. That brings me to my first point. If we look again at the poem, the free bird on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends. and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. Dares to claim the sky. I want to say tonight that before we move forward, we got to claim the territory. We got to own it before we get there. If we're moving forward, we got to know where we're going. I was so moved last night. The bishop's message talked about those seasons not being permanent. And as she was speaking, I was reminded of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, who says there are three ways of looking at things. He says one way to look at things is as an inherent, as though they are permanent and cannot be changed. Another way of looking at things in life is to recognize that they are not inerrant and they're subject to change. That's true with the scriptures that said the things that are present, they are temporary. It's the things that are not seen, they are eternal. And then the third way of looking at things is not to look at them as permanent or impermanent. So here, the caged bird sings. Wings clipped, legs tied, still some way finds a song, finds a way to look up and takes a risk. And saying, whatever state I might find myself in, the sky belongs to me. So that caged bird sings from his pain. Well, I wish I had some church folk here. And caged bird is there looking up at the other birds flying high in the sky. And somehow he's been weighted down. He's been distracted by the suffering and the pain that he's experienced, but yet that sky belongs to me. Well, I know why the caged bird sings. And it's amazing how the theme of this particular writing captures the whole spiritual journey. Because until you find out why that bird that's in that cage, wings clipped, legs tied, is singing, you've missed the whole boat. Because it depicts our struggle, it depicts our journey, it depicts our moving from point A to point B. It's a metaphor of what the spiritual journey is really about. That sometimes you have to be in your season and claim the new terrain. I know why he sings. I know, and he's singing a song not of his current circumstance. I know we like to sing the blues every now and then, and we kind of like to share our sorrows. Blues makes billions of dollars a year, but that's not the song that the bird was singing. The bird was singing a song that the angels could not sing. The bird was singing a song that he said, well, I'm bound by my hands and I'm bound by my feet. So I'll just open up my throat. I'll use what I have. And I hear a little tune coming from somewhere that said, amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saves somebody like me. I hope you're praying with me. The foundation of our journey is all about freedom. There lies within us the foretaste of glory divine. There lies within inside of us the spirit of freedom that speaks and claims the territory before we get there. It takes courage to lay claim to somewhere you ain't been before. It takes a little courage to claim the land before you get there and say, that land belongs to me. Why? Because my Father owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. It takes courage to stand in the midst of your dark season and say it's only going to last but for a moment. Because I remember when Grandma said, I'm so glad trouble don't last always. Come on, somebody. I hear the Lord saying, come now, let us reason together. Though your sin be as scarlet, I will make them white as snow. And then when I get through with you, I'm going to give you an inheritance. So Maya was able to capture the attitude of this caged bird. And that caged bird dared to claim the sky, even from the cage. Even from the cage. Hear the strong invitation to the weaker from the stronger, to reason and to settle the matter. Whatever the division, whatever the brokenness, an open invitation to come on one accord, an open invitation to own the territory, an open invitation that says, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel, not just in the city, not just in your home, but go ye therefore into all the world. That is the God of forgiveness. That is the God of selflessness. A God who knows that we desire in our deepest selves to be free. You know, in order for the caged bird to sing his song, he first had to get in touch with himself. He had to stop listening, as Bishop said last night, to the outside conversation. He had to stop listening to everybody else's song, Michael Jackson's song, and everybody else singing. He had to stop and get a song that was an expression of himself. Our creative force, our creative process. There's a culture as a byproduct of who we are as a people. God is asking us to move forward. But in order for us to move forward, we cannot limit ourselves by what is present. We have to see that, yes, now we're in Jamaica. Now we are inviting those of other language, but we also have many other places that belong to us. Amen. We have up north, we have down south, we have west, we have east, and we're being called to that place, but we can't see ourselves limited. Interesting dynamic that happens when we start singing our song. Somehow the other birds look at us and say, how in the world that you can be singing? The minute you start singing your song, you'll notice they'll start talking about you like, you don't have a right to sing your song. You ain't been through nothing. Who do you think you are? How can you possibly be singing your song? You're in the cage. I don't know what inspired Maya to write this particular passage of this poem, but I can imagine that as she was walking past a pet store one day, she realized and recognized that in that pet store there was a little bird in the cage singing his song. Singing his song day and night. Probably she might have passed it every day for several days and recognized that no matter what the condition was, the song was still being sung. I know why the cage birds sing when you've been through something, when your wings have been clipped, and you can't quite get the elevation that you once had, and somehow you think the world is caving in on you. What you got to do is recognize that you have a song to sing in the midst of your wings. I know, now I understand why. Maya doesn't answer the question. She leaves it to her readers to figure it out. She leaves it to us to interpret it through our experience.
Yes, that's it.
I guess you imagine that if I answer it for them, they won't seek the answer. But every time you stand up to claim your territory, something, some force, somebody, somewhere is going to try to stop you from singing your song. Cage builders are outside of this door. Sometimes you might find the cage builders right inside the house of God. We got folks in the church so busy building cages for other people, they can't hear what God is calling them to do. Here's where we mess up. After we claim the territory, we let other folks talk us out of it. You can't do that. How is that going to happen? How are you going to do that? I said we can own the land. Oh no, you can't own the land. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough intelligence. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know where you're going. That's cage building. Meaning you let somebody put you in a cage, that ain't the end. The minute you let somebody clip your wings, that ain't the end. The minute you let somebody tie your feet where you can't walk, what you say, Bishop? You're bent over, you're tied over, you're twisted. That ain't the end. Because although you clip my wings, although you tied my feet, I still have a song. I still have a song. Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, the foretaste of glory divine. Of salvation, purchased by God, born of the Spirit. I'm washed in blood. This is my story. This is my song. I'm praising. Oh, y'all don't hear me. I'm praising my Savior all the day long. I got a song to sing. I know why the cage birds sing. I done found out. Maya, I know you're gone. Maya, I know you're back here. But you left me a key to life. You left me something out of your pain. You left me something out of your being raped. You left me something